the 3rd of May, 2022. So, I had volunteered at this bookstore called Nine Lives Books. And there was so much needless drama, I didn't even know that bookstores could be filled with that much drama. I mean, it makes sense because of how many books there are. But it wasn't the books. It was the people. Not necessarily all of them, and yet, kind of. So one of the individuals who I got along really well with, his name was Howard. And he had been a revolution, or a Civil War reenactor. The difference of certain types of humor was, as it was more intellectual humor than the rest that had worked there. And when I first started at Nine Lives Books, I was actually a part of the psychic fair. None of the psychics or healers in that capacity had ever been paid for any of the commercial time. And then, because Michael Roberts decided that he didn't want to have the psychics there anymore, mainly because Suzanne Farnsworth had allowed the cat sanctuary to take over instead. So the employees and volunteers at Nine Lives Books, so let me give this a better timeline for those to understand better. So in the beginning, it was about 2005, around November or December. And I had asked, because I had found this bookstore. I don't even know how I found this bookstore. I just went in the area and there it was. I think maybe one of the people from the San Antonio pagan community, Joe Rose, had told me about Nine Lives Books and said, okay, go check it out. I think that's how I found it to begin with. Suzanne Farnsworth would know whether or not she knows Joe Rose, who would be my Reiki teacher in that particular capacity. So I had been in the San Antonio pagan community since 2004, in the earlier months of the year, around March or so, maybe February. And there were issues here and there, but it was as it was. It was shortly before the first separation. My biological mother and biological father showed up to the San Antonio pagan community as soon as my now dead ex-husband, then just soon to be ex-husband, it was a really bad situation. They showed up to the San Antonio pagan community within 1 to 2 times of my attendance, because my now dead ex-husband didn't want to be around the pagans, as far as that was concerned. I was interested in learning about stuff. Mike and Anna said they only had one daughter, which was Patricia, my biological sister. For several months, Anna and Mike had only told people that they had one daughter. They had fully disowned me in the pagan community. They denied my existence. So there's no reason for them to be involved in anything of mine at all, simply by the fact that they had denied my existence. Period and end of story. No matter how much they wanted to do the two-face situation, they just were that way. Again, on my official YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe to my official YouTube channel. Share the link to my official YouTube channel links, because these videos that I lecture are for my official YouTube channel only. Go to my website, www.susanmealing.com, and check out what I have worked on. So in the year of 2004, Mike and Anna fully denied my existence before Wilford Hall in 2005. This is in the San Antonio pagan community. Patricia, my biological sister, did not want me at her high school graduation. She didn't even let me know that it was going on. To be honest, I also had that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. And so while those people, meaning my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister, did as they did, officially, they had removed themselves from my son, my daughter, and my life. They had kept contact with my dead ex-husband while he was alive. They made arrangements with him without my consent, knowing nothing. They did not know I am the sponsor. They thought similarly in regards of the way my Bokgung and Bokpu, they thought my dead ex-husband was the sponsor. They made a huge mistake in that. Similarly regarding how my Bokpu had been in charge. And so I, as the sponsor, and my house, as far as my VA home loan, they didn't know those details. They weren't allowed those details. So while they might have been upset, such as whenever their birthdays were, I didn't even remember my own birthday, because when was the first year awake from my coma, meaning of the first 12 months, I was in labor giving birth in a few days to my son in 2001. I didn't even know my own, I knew the date, the 29th of August. However, I was kind of busy because of the way my son and my daughter's labor were. I was kind of a little busy to focus as to whether or not the day was the 29th of August or not. So those people's level of arrogance is well proven. Those people have needed to stay out of my life permanently. And that includes in reference to my work. That includes in reference to my finances. That includes in reference to my social media. That includes in reference to my website. That includes in reference to my finances. That includes in reference to my books. That includes in reference to my copyrights because they're mine. That includes in reference to my son and my daughter. It's always been this way. I have updated and verified and clarified the amount of situations more so in 2019 through now in 2022. Any clarifications and verifications that were officially verified from my first two books, the nonfiction ones for these references, of Finding a Silver Lining and Finding the Silver Lining. Again, go to my website, www.susanbling.com, and you can find the links for my books. I have not ever given those people permission to be a part of anything. They knew as to how the justice of the peace occurred. They were informed by my now dead ex-husband when they showed up to San Antonio. They thought he was joking when he told them to their face in Lincoln Green apartment. They thought he was joking as to how that occurred. They were informed that year. They thought he was just a funny guy. I told them that was the truth. Those people didn't believe me because I didn't graduate from basic training. They literally heard directly from my now dead ex-husband exactly how the so-called proposal went. So I'm going to give you a little reference for those who have read Finding a Silver Lining. Can you recognize this? More so this particular area. So, that's the facts. So while my biological mother and biological father and biological sister thought in the year of 2000 that my dead ex-husband now was joking,
They thought it was a funny joke in comparison to the reality. They wanted to try to claim, oh, well, it's because she didn't graduate basic training. And he flat out told them to their face, no. They were told about my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen. They thought he was joking. As far as the literally in her middle name, Evangelist or Evangelina. So, you know, it was one of those. And then there's my original blue ID card at Lackland Air Force Base. You have these references. So my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister complained because while I was in medical hold unit, and by the way, as far as when I went to basic training, in 2000, in December, when they flew into San Antonio, Texas, they complained that when I went to basic training, if they had signed the paperwork sooner, I wouldn't have had this problem in 1999, in October. If they had signed it then, or November, or December, if they had just signed the paperwork, they wouldn't have this issue. In December of 2000, my biological mother and biological father and biological sister in the Lincoln Green apartment complained that I had the nerve to have them sign the paperwork in the time frame of how would I know what their anniversary date for their wedding would be. They expected me to know this. Even though I had been fighting to attend MAST since 1996. On top of everything else, this is the level that I have dealt with for decades. Then you have the additional fact, my biological mother complained about her birthday not being remembered when she signed the paperwork, similar to how she signed the paperwork regarding MAST. Then you have the complaints in reference to from my biological sister and my biological father, because while I was in medical hold unit, being taught how to count to 10, and when I was in medical hold unit, being taught the names of colors, while dealing with the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, my biological sister and biological father complained that I didn't remember their birthday. Because, you know, I had this subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, and I had the nerve to have been in a coma, because I had the nerve to have a head injury during basic training. These are their words in 2000 in December. Literally anybody who has dealt with those people know exactly that reality. So then in 2001, while I was pregnant with my son, dealing with this subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, not knowing that's what it was called, dealing with the headaches and migraines and cognitive disorders and memory deficits, and having gone from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math and all of those medical appointments. They were upset when it came to Christmas time in 2001 that I had the nerve to not remember Anna's birthday or their wedding anniversary. Albeit I was in the hospital a few times, they were upset that I didn't remember their birthday or wedding anniversary. All three of them. They were so upset because in their words, in 2001, they thought I was selfish for having been in the hospital. Because how dare I defend my pregnant belly during that time? Yes, that was their viewpoint. Literally, that was what they thought. They could not understand how I, with a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, could not remember their wedding anniversary 29th of August is my birthday. I was in labor for about, I think it was about the 7th or 8th day. I was in labor with my son, which ironically, they were in San Antonio. Not one point in time did they say happy birthday to me. So, it's a little hypocritical when you really think about it. Because, I was in labor as I was. So then fast forward to the 11th of September 2001, everybody knows what occurred. My biological mother, within 3 days, tells me that all of the people she knew in whatever floor, from what I understood later, something like the 35th floor in one of the towers in the World Trade Center, she wanted me to feel happy that all of them survived. An entire floor in the World Trade Center, one of the Twin Towers, which for those who don't know about the World Trade Center, there's a World Trade Center and then there's a World Trade Center Plaza. The World Trade Center is exactly as the words, in the center. That's where the main, inside of the center of the World Trade Center is where the main area to go to the subway is. Outside of it, which is the perimeter of what was, is the World Trade Center Plaza. So, my biological sister and my biological father in 2001 additionally complained after arriving in San Antonio when I dealt with their complaints about not remembering their wedding anniversary and my biological mother's birthday. While I was less than a year awake from my coma, according to them, I was so selfish. Because how dare I work on myself, because I literally went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. To them, I was so selfish because of my headache pain and my migraines as they would come. And so for clarification today, right now, my headaches after 22 years is about 4.5 right now. Okay? So, but it's also been 22 years. So, but according to Anna, I was selfish for not remembering their wedding anniversary or their birthday in 2001 because how dare I be working on that while keeping my pregnant belly safe. I had just been to the emergency room a time or two, and how dare I do what I could for my son and I. Okay? So then, the September 11th situation occurs. My son is hospitalized, as I have discussed and wrote about, and then I was hospitalized. And I took care of what I could take care of. Fast forward to Christmas 2001, you think you have family issues as far as whoever could listen to this lecture? No, let me assure you, you don't have any family issues in comparison. For those who are like, no, let me Beyonce, no. This is not a competition. And even if it was, let's be honest on this. So then in Christmas 2001, my biological sister, biological father, and biological mother complained, how dare I be hospitalized and not remember their birthdays and whatever. How dare I be doing whatever I was doing in San Antonio, Texas? What could I ever do? I mean, other than the fact that my clearance at the age of 17 was Omega. For those who understand that particular reference of symbolism, for those who would know, at the age of 17, again, I was invited to Marine and Science Technology School. So, you have this symbolism right there, And yes, this is a Reiki healing symbol, not denying that. However, let's be honest as to that particular situation in reference to that justice of the peace. Let's be honest, what is also known as peace. So, okay, so we got some extra symbolism. Hi. So, fast forward to 2002, when, my daughter was born. In September. I still haven't even remembered my own birthday, mind you. Okay? I know that the day is the 29th of August. I know this. I know. However, what's more important to me? My son's first birthday while I'm pregnant and about to deliver my daughter on the 24th of September, or my birthday. It's common sense. Well, fast forward. 7 days of labor, yet again, after the exact same situation regarding, so the membrane strip and everything was the exact same. So it was essentially 9-10 days of labor total. Don't be jealous, okay, ladies? Nobody can be jealous. Don't be jealous. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then I had to be stitched up, because that's how it was. So yeah, females, don't worry. I know there could be someone who is that much of a masochist. Why am I not a masochist? I'm sure somebody could think, you know what, I don't think anybody needs psychology to figure that out. I don't think so. Nope, not at all. However, so fast forward to Christmas. Yeah, 2002. And I got lectured when Mike was at work because how dare I, again, in the second time in a row, how dare I not think about their wedding anniversary, because according to them, I should have remembered their wedding anniversary because Anna was pregnant with me. So somehow I was supposed to give a damn about their wedding when I was in her uterus. Whoops, my bad. Who knew that just because I was there, I was supposed to care? Whoopsies. Excuse me, I was just developing in the fetus. Excuse me. Yeah, couldn't see shit, but that's fine. Go ahead and blame me for that. I know. Anybody who is alive, what time of listening to this, watching, yes, I am a bit satirical at this particular point in time. Yes, I was, maybe there is a pop culture reference for this. Because, excuse me, my bad. I was just in the middle of, this is how long my life has been this way. So, excuse me, I was just growing my body. I was extending my fingers and, forming myself. Excuse me, my bad. I didn't realize I was supposed to have a calendar in there too. Excuse me. Whoops. Sorry. You know what? My bad. Whoopsies. What a bad fetus I was. How dare I? What type of a fetus would be so selfish? Let me do some self-deprecating here. What type of a fetus would have the nerve to be in someone's uterus and not pay attention to the wedding going on outside of where my umbilical cord was? I was so rude as a fetus. Wow. Who would have ever thought? You know what? Maybe that has to do with that tattoo. I don't know. You know what? That might be why I wear corsets. Because, you got the string and it's like, oh, this is my reminder right here. Whoopsies. I totally was so rude as a fetus, growing and just doing what I could, to avoid all the other stuff that was going on as far as, excuse me. My bad. I was so rude. I was growing. I was developing my brain. I was developing my organs. I was growing my legs. And then there's my feet and toes, and then my ears and my nose. Ugh, I was such a rude deal with this. My fetusness when I was being in the utero, having to deal with being in there, and wow, I was such a rude fetus. I don't know how I made it. Because I was literally making myself. So, that was just, what, maybe, Anna? Hey, you know what? Maybe you should have told me what day it was. How about that? How about that? Who would have thought? Maybe you should take some responsibility for your own actions. Bitch. Same thing for you, Mike, as far as that's concerned, when you really take that in consideration. Excuse me, Mr. Certified full of a watch, whatever. You think you know about calendars or something about time as far as that's concerned. If you're going to go be mad as a fetus that I didn't know. Excuse me. What a rude fetus I was. I'm such a rude fetus. Which, you know what? Maybe this is why I don't like feet. Because I was such a rude fetus. You know what? I figured it out. Such a ninja. It only took going on 40 years to figure this out. Although 22 since waking up from my coma, so Seriously, such a rude fetus. How dare I not have a calendar in there? But you know what? I can also blame Anna just the same as blaming Mike. Because you know what, bitch? You were doing technology programming. Why don't you go and program a freaking calendar in your fetus? Bitch. There you go. There you go. So I got one who does time and one who does coding. Well, what's your fault? What's your problem? What's your problem? There you go. There you go. There. So it's not my fault I was a developing fetus. That's your fault. By technicalities. You know what? If you didn't have sex, I wouldn't have been a fetus. There you go. And so, excuse me, being a developing fetus. Wow. You know what? I just don't know. How dare I? I was so... And how I did it. So then, also, of course, because of Anna and Mike's birthday and Patricia's birthday. Because, in 2002, I was just, doing stuff like my doctor's appointments for that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain while raising 2 children. And, only 2 years away from my coma. Dealing with headaches and migraines. Who has ever raised 2 children at the same time? You forget a little bit? Excuse me. Ugh. And then, I only had to be taught how to count to 10. So, excuse me, I apparently didn't realize. Because why would I know? You know what? Here's a hint. Maybe if I was actually told their damn birthday, and maybe if I was told their damn wedding anniversary, maybe I would have known. But you know what? I have memory deficits, and I have cognitive disorders, so you know what? I forgot to ask, while dealing with everything else. Because every time I went to Wilford Hall, it really wasn't much different than, for the first couple of years. Certain, it was as it was as far as certain questions. I'll just leave it at that. And that is what it is. Those guys with, it is what it is. And so, so then there was that in 2002. I've already gone over about how I actually packed everything to leave. Because of how bad it got when it came to Dakota. The dog. The peekapoo dog. That was just a problem. And so there was that. Then, as far as, and I had everything packed. Everything was ready to go. I didn't want to have anything to do with them at all. It was over before it ever began. So then there's 2003. They moved to Texas. And my biological explained this, the whole kit and caboodle, and because of the situations regarding my biological sister and the little threesome, because apparently she felt so lonely that I gave my then husband a hug in front of her. She felt so lonely, she had to go have a threesome at Mike and Anna's Bridgeloan house. It was just so, I have been lonely before. I haven't felt the need to have a threesome when I've been lonely, but apparently that is what the normal is for my biological sister. Maybe when she got married, her husband and that family found out. So, and Mike and Anna made an excuse. They literally blamed me because how dare I in my house that I own have the nerve to go and give a hug. Not fucking, no, a hug. Now, there is the facts though, and they were informed just as similarly at that same sit down in my backyard on my patio. Which, no, they weren't informed that that was my house. My VA home loan, they weren't informed that I am the sponsor. But they didn't know that. They had whatever opinion they had. So I've discussed this, written about it, go to my website, www.susanmealing.com. I contacted Adam's parents regarding both when I learned that because I didn't know. And I remembered basic training as far as that big situation where I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to make sure that's safe. Just in case, because it's better to be safe than sorry. I had actually told my biological sister to go get checked and go get, whatever. And she was like, no, it's not that big of a deal. And I was like, except it is. You have to go do this. And she didn't care, so it was as it was. I've done what I can for my health and wellness, so that way it's not a problem, because I know how to do that. I also have done things to make sure I don't deal with certain things, because it's a protective energy. And so that just is as it is. So then there's the facts of in 2003, during the Christmas season, again, I was blamed because how dare I not remember any of their birthdays or wedding anniversary. Again, in 2003, I didn't even remember my own birthday, which my biological sister, having been there, would know that. So then there's that. She had been as she had been. The situations were as it was. She had her temper tantrum. Mike told me, as far as until they moved to the house, that I was in charge. And that whatever my decision for her punishments were that. And afterwards we would talk about it, and if my punishments were still worthwhile, then they were gonna stick. And so I was told that my punishments were not over the line. So even though I somehow still got blamed for making her feel lonely, I wasn't told that anything was overreactive. Everything was within reason. And so he himself had wished that he had disciplined Patricia the way I had. And so he himself, on my back patio, in my property of my house, in San Antonio, flat out said I was accurate. I mean, he himself also said that he didn't send my biological sister, or he didn't send Patricia to be the best little whore in Texas. Well, it is what it is. And so that she got embarrassed because I made her tell the truth. And I didn't care, because it's the reality. That's what needed to be done. She was mad because I made her tell the truth to Mike and Anna, and she threw her little fit. So when it came to additionally those 4 in total, including Patricia, regarding the male that had been at the high school, who had hair to about here, it was black, it had a skunk stripe, and he was the one who had sprayed the hairspray and lit it on fire. I think that was Adam. Then, I think that the other one was Zach, complexion and medium brown hair. I don't remember her name at all. She was quiet though. And so it was as it was. These people were as these people were. And I don't feel bad because in the state of Texas, I have the legal right to defend my property, as well as the legal right to protect my son and my daughter's life, as well as my legal right to protect and defend my neighborhood because of what that stupid little boy was doing. And so since his parents, apparently similarly, as far as the other two, because obviously regarding Patricia, they complained. Well, you know what? That's the state of Texas. It's the facts. It's within the legal law. And so Mike and Anna didn't disagree with my choice. Patricia kept throwing her temper tantrum. So fast forward to 2004, and I got involved in the San Antonio pagan community. Mike and Anna didn't tell anybody that I'm the eldest. They also didn't remove me from being the legal guardian either. So it was as it was. So then there was the situations throughout the time. I then later go to drum circles and stuff like that. Additionally, the Excalibur Fair, Anna having been a part of TRF, whatever that is, as well as SCA, whatever that is, she told me what happened at Excalibur Fair is normal as far as what I dealt with. This is what my biological mother is. And then, again at Christmas, I got yelled at because I didn't remember their wedding anniversary or any of the three of their birthdays because according to them, I was selfish for thinking about my son, my daughter, and I's health and safety. As far as that was concerned, as far as what was being dealt with. And they had another, throughout those years, they had multiple times where my now dead ex-husband told them what he did. Each and every time, they thought he was joking. Even when I was in the backyard, laid out in the unconscious on the concrete, they thought he was joking. He wasn't joking. They didn't care. If they actually had, they would have done something correctly instead. However, if there's any hypothetical connection in regards to Iowa 2018, don't pretend that they didn't get told. Because that's the truth, which only reiterates they have not ever had my best interests in mind ever. They had repeatedly denied my existence throughout the years, even to 2012, in regards of a Red Hat Society female who didn't even know I existed until I popped off on her. Because she had said in 2012 that she only knew of Patricia being their daughter. So there's no excuse for their involvement. Not Anna's, not Mike's, and damn sure not Patricia's. There is no reason, no cause, and no excuse for any of those three or any associates thereof in any capacity to be involved with my work in any way, shape, or form. That includes my finances for my usage only. That's it. So as far as those people are concerned, then there's, I had the nerve to be so selfish as to have doctor's appointments for myself in neurology, according to them, which they claimed that I had scheduled so I wouldn't remember their birthday or their wedding anniversary. That was their actual claim. This is the psychosis that I was dealing with as a child and as a teenager. This actually occurred even when I was a child. In kindergarten, I was blamed for not knowing their wedding anniversary. I was blamed for not knowing their birthday. Ask them how many times they ever celebrated my birthday, and how hypocritical is it that they would ever expect me to remember their birthday. So if you want me to remember your birthday, here's a hint. Remember mine and actually have a celebration of my birthday with me there. Otherwise, don't bitch that I don't remember. And if through social media, because of the way it shows up on whatever, if I do so, be appreciative to mainly technology, but also, yeah, okay, well, I actually saw it and I paid attention and whatever. Otherwise, I'm not the only one. So as a child in elementary school, I actually got in trouble for not remembering their wedding anniversary or Anna or Mike or Patricia's birthdays. Yet they didn't ever do anything for my birthday that I actually would have wanted. So it's one of those, back off, get to stepping. You can't make up for that now. Too late. All the way through my teenage years. And then after Mass and Marine and Science Technology School, that situation. So then moved to Illinois and I got yelled at some more because how dare I not know their wedding anniversary, which they didn't ever tell me. How dare I not remember their birthdays, which they didn't tell me. I only saw a calendar one day that they decided to write on in my house without my permission, which they got in trouble for doing because I didn't ever give them permission. I've already gone over how they have needlessly involved themselves, and for as many times as they complain about my stuff, stay out permanently. They did not ever acknowledge my existence repeatedly. Get over yourselves at this point. I don't care if they started after I began my website, because that's just name dropping. That's not, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. They cannot pretend that they ever had anything. They were not invited as far as my scuba diving certification class graduations because there wasn't ever a party. So if I actually had a party, then they actually would have been invited. However, the only party that they were invited to was the only motherfucking party I ever had that I threw. So, you know, that's the type of selfish individuals that I dealt with. So when did my biological sister graduate high school? I don't know. I wasn't informed of. But I was informed of afterwards because how dare I have doctor appointments. And so if my son and my daughter were there with my now dead ex-husband, then that's their fault. Because they thought, apparently, that he was the sponsor only because of the Mandarin view that he graduated basic training, when in the reality, I have always been the sponsor. That is why he had a pink ID card. Because the blue ID card, hello, good morning. As much as they wished otherwise. So, no, none of the agreements they made with my now dead ex-husband, as far as my son and my daughter, were ever allowed because he wasn't the sponsor to begin with. He didn't have a blue ID card because he wasn't one. Then there's the dress blues situation. As much as they wish in those capacities, no. So those individuals have needed to let it go for decades, referring to let me go. Let my work go. Let all the people that I've known go. They don't need to be involved with you, Mike, Anna, and Patricia, as well as any involvement regarding the Millers, because if they try bringing up my son, my daughter, and my dead ex-husband, guess what? He didn't have any legal authority to make any deals with you to begin with. Only I did. The whole time. And since that wasn't ever brought forward to me, null and void. automatically. One and only executrix to begin with, on top of the fact, one and only sponsor. Because even in regarding the other stuff, I didn't ever have a pink ID card. I didn't ever get one. Because I didn't need one. Good morning. By the way, you have anybody from the East Coast associated? You're welcome that they're alive. I did the best I could. Can't say the same for any of you people. Now can I? You know, since Anna had brought up that she had a whole floor of people that she knew on an entire office floor that survived. How'd she know that 3 days? She made the phone call from a McHenry County Government Center building. Just pointing that out there, and then magically my son was hospitalized and I was being asked all sorts of questions because I had already been talking with the tech sergeant. In person, face to face, in person. Which they didn't ever know about because they didn't ask. That's who I am. I've been doing what I could as far as security for quite a few years. So, then there was when I was hospitalized, excuse me, in 2001, I was a smidgen busy. You know, recovering from the infection while at the same time having delivered my son and taking care of my son while dealing with that subarachnoid hemorrhage up in the frontal lobe of my brain. I know I was busy then, but then I had to go and assist looking at the footage while, you know, dealing with all that sort of stuff. Excuse me, I know, I'm sorry, I was busy. I had the nerve to go and do what I could regarding the different footage as far as when the news came on, you know, in the middle of a commercial. That's very rare that ever happens. You know, it's not like now with the YouTube streaming stuff. Back in 2000, this whole thing, so like those who know about ad-free stuff, no, that wasn't an option on television back then for the news. The news cycle in between the different shows was about a 3 to 5 minute different segment of multiple commercials, and it could literally be CNN or Fox News, whichever one. In the middle of the first commercial, these guys walk in to the room that I'm in, and they have the TV change, and they ask me to give them my opinion. So excuse me, I didn't forget on purpose. I was a little busy. But you know, I didn't graduate basic training. It was known I grew up the way I did. I did get invited to Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment, and it was known that I was born and raised in New Jersey and taken up to the New York City area a whole bunch of times. Don't let my outfit, my hair, or my tattoos fool you. Doing the best I can back then. I know I didn't have my hair this way. Didn't have my tattoos. How dare I not remember to, think to call. I know. It's so rude going and caring more about what I could assist with from where I was in San Antonio, Texas. I know. That darn Omega clearance at the age of 17 years old. How rude. How rude. I mean, it was known as far as the 1993 situation, and it was also known as far as my work there at before and after. Additionally, it was also because that's why probably, hypothetically, invitation to MAST. Who would have thought this combination situation between Joe Jose as well as Sensei Bob and Governor Christine Todd Whitman? Who would know that wouldn't be a little side? Who would know? What could I give as an example that I've already talked about and wrote about in regards of, meeting Governor Christine Todd Whitman? A few examples for this lecture is the answer before in my official YouTube videos of my official YouTube channel. So as a sponsor, what would that translate to in reference to anybody involving modern day book. I believe it starts with D for one word and T for another one. Not my fault you didn't ever take me seriously regarding my biological mother, biological father, biological sister, ex-in-laws, and anybody associated with. So, then there's, 2005 and taking care of what I could. Then there's Wilford Hall because Mike and Anna kept trying to find out from, ironically, my dead ex-husband what he was doing in reference to the 11th of September. When they asked me, I told them it was none of their business. As far as, other than what I have told regarding the video footage, when the door had opened in that situation, and having spoken, other than that, they weren't informed of me being in the hospital with my son and my daughter. They weren't informed of when I was pregnant with my daughter and being in the hospital again, in those references at those times because of that situation. So while I didn't graduate basic training, I was just shown some stuff, and it was as it was. Yes, I also had kidney stones. You know how those form when you're pregnant. I had these pains in the lower part of my back. But anyway, so then those medical aspects would also be in that modern day book situation regarding my biological mother, biological father, biological sister, ex-in-laws, and connected individuals in that hypothetical legally, because Blue ID card. Sponsor. Hi, I've always been this way. Marine and Science Technology School invitation. Why would anybody leave so quickly after the initial paperwork directly to basic training? I didn't do anything, the recruiters knew. The recruiters took care of that. That's not mine, that's them. So if Mike and Ann and Patricia have been as angry as they've been, as long as they have been, they have no one to be angry at, except for the Army, though they know that. So then there's that other situation, which has been brought forward. So in 2005, I start going and doing the psychic fair. And then, doing that at 9 Lives Books. And then I get asked if I could assist with some of the online book stuff because it's known that I had very few people who came up to me. They just kind of stayed away because all of the other psychics were doing as they were, and I just read books. Again, though, as far as Mike, Anna, and or Patricia, how dare I go and not want to be a part of that? Because I didn't want their involvement. So Suzanne had invited me to be a volunteer and do the online book stuff. Well, taking the books to the post office, there was a mail, for those who are in the San Antonio community, Joseph Estes, kind of asked him if he was ever in the U.S. Post Office near medical, although Daniel might be capable to recognize, as far as the one who had the Air Force chain. I believe there was something wrong with his knee or something, that particular one, regarding the books and stuff like that. And so, it is as it is, just as a hypothetical. Anyway, nowadays you can get your mail scanned and emailed to you. I wonder how that began. Any books? You know what? Amazon automatically sends through their own shipping company instead. I wonder why. Maybe there's been too many situations the internal part of your mail sent to your email, if you choose, which translates to they've been doing it for a while. You know, after 9/11, there was in 1993 those issues regarding envelopes. Just so you know. So then, you know, I mean, you have customs. So that's stuff that occurs when overseas coming into the U.S. Hello? So, okay, so 2005, I started volunteering. It was probably the end of 2005. And so, by that time, though, Wilford Hall had occurred. And we weren't talking. So if they showed up to Nine Lives Books and lied to Nine Lives Books, then there's that problem. Because they had already told the San Antonio pagan community that it was only Patricia and all that sort of stuff. Joe Rose knew about it, Sam knew about it, Dee knew about it, plenty of people knew about it. It just literally was that psychotic regarding Mike, Anna, and Patricia. They really just needed to stop. Because they weren't allowed or invited. And so instead of having common sense and just asking me, they didn't like when they did my response to that. They tried doing whatever, and I would not play their game. I warned people throughout the state of Texas. Again, I moved to Carrollton, so I didn't have to deal with them. And yet, all these other situations, when does no mean no actually get translated to no translates no? Regarding my biological mother, my biological father, my biological sister, and their whatevers, including my ex-in-laws. There is no reason, there is no cause, there is no excuse for any of their needless problems being involved in my life at all. All anybody needs to know is how they've treated Patricia, and you know damn well that they wouldn't have put me as the legal guardian of that if I was actually as irresponsible as they may have wished to claim. That's the facts. So there's no reason for them to be involved with any of my finances, ever, at all. That goes to my ex-in-laws as well. No, there is no reason at all. Nothing in regards to my social media, nothing in regards of my website, nothing. There is nothing for them that is mine. Period. I'm going to totally quote Greg Gutfeld's show on that. And I did create that meme, by the way, on my red Microsoft phone in Vancouver, Washington, at Crystal Creek Apartments. So, crystal clear now, isn't it? So then, whenever the graduation of high school, whatever it was, I suppose they were expecting me to remember or, not be busy enough, because I was just dealing with a few things. The subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain was still going on, and all these other facts, realistically, as many times as they tried calling me selfish, what was actually selfish? I was a mom taking care of my son and my daughter by myself without any assistance. The way everything had occurred as it had, I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, and I had constant appointments to take my son, my daughter, and I to, depending on. They didn't ever, and they still owe me the money in regards to the groceries. They didn't ever pay me, so they still owe me that. It's not that I didn't remember, I remembered. They wish I didn't, I was just busy. The honor system. So while they might wish otherwise, I was busy. So they got bills that they owe me money. That's the way it's always been. They owe me my money. And they need to stay out of my stuff. That's the fact. as far as they're concerned, I didn't invite them because I didn't invite them. That's how that is. They spoke with my dead ex-husband when he was alive. He didn't have the authority. Similarly, no different, once again, than my buck poo compared to my buck gum. Period. Just as my buck gum had told Anna, Patricia Caesarion on his birthday was not good enough for the difference to be made for Patricia. And Anna had insulted my buck poo. So, no, get to stepping. Here's how much Anna loved herself. She named Patricia Ann in comparison to what she was supposed to be named. So, then, while volunteering, I go with Daniel or I go with Ken to essentially, the money they gave me as far as 9 Lives books went directly back to 9 Lives books regarding the books that were brought in, especially regarding the military guys who brought books just for me. So all of that stuff, they didn't pay the psychics for any of their time regarding those commercials. Just for clarifications. They also allowed the cat sanctuary to overrun the psychic fair instead of keeping the psychic fair going. Michael and Suzanne made that choice together. Michael, having been a skeptic, he lost out. All of those others went the way they did. Was as it was. Cat sanctuary, insane, crazy cat people did as they did. That's what happened. And while Suzanne was being spun around by whoever she was being spun around by, same thing in reference to Michael. And so all of the volunteers and bookstore employees, there were even cat sanctuary volunteers and employees who complained to Suzanne. Suzanne couldn't be bothered. Same thing in regards to, they complained to us regarding the bookstore volunteers as far as me and a few others and employees. There's a few that were considered employees and they didn't get paid. So Suzanne had to make up for that. And so while the situations where the cat sanctuary, which anybody who's ever met a crazy cat person, so the situation regarding her condo and that is the reality of what it was. There's the your dad is not a captain situation as far as the animal control phone call. This is how they were. And so each of these situations, all of those cat sanctuary people, that's all of them. There was a point in time where there were 75 of them that Suzanne was paying them to go take care of all this stuff, plus the vet bills, plus all sorts of other stuff. She'd just give them cash. She didn't ever ask for a receipt, which I actually gave receipts. Unlike them. So, all of these needless problems regarding Suzanne and Michael, there's the additional factors of what Suzanne and I discussed in front of others. Same thing with the military guys from gyms that brought in books. This was discussed with Suzanne. So whether she remembers it or not, that's her problem. My clarifications and verifications, whatever level of accuracy. Those insane cat people, as far as that cat sanctuary, literally went after physically the multitude of other cat sanctuary people, including the bookstore people. If the bookstore aspects as to Suzanne and Michael actually had been organized, they wouldn't have had those problems. But Suzanne wanted to have the cat sanctuary. That became more important than the people. That was her choice. She had no problem kicking out the psychic fair for the cat sanctuary. She was convinced by those cat sanctuary volunteers. That's what occurred. That's how they decided to do it instead. So all of those cat sanctuary bills were because Suzanne chose to. She also had the saltwater fish tank and all that sort of stuff. She made those choices. So I didn't ever give Michael or Suzanne permission, as I wouldn't ever give them permission to be involved with my work. Ever. They, just the same as Mike, Anna, and Patricia, were informed not only by my now dead ex-husband as to what I was dealing with. He flat out told them before the second and final separation as to the same things. The justice of the peace situation. Suzanne thought he was telling a joke no differently than Anna, Mike, and Patricia. When it came time to the garage situation with Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., they thought he was joking. When all three of us had told Suzanne, as well as the different females, such as Lisa Williams, such as a few other females, including Howard, including Daniel, and Ken Westmeyer, they thought my dead ex-husband now was joking. They thought Cactus Jack was joking. They thought I was joking. Does it sound like I'm joking? I would guesstimate in this lecture not. This is how I told them. They thought I was joking, instead of paying attention to details because of the facts. So over and over and over again. So then fast forward to 2007, towards the end, as far as my now dead ex-husband goes overseas, it's already known Camp Mabry was informed as to the reality. That was known. I saluted the national anthem song when the flag came out. There were individuals who had a problem. By the way, boys, I have the blue ID card. I'm the sponsor. He had the pink ID card up until his claim as to IRR. That was true. Again, Nine Lives Books. I've been informed. Same thing with Dr. Sun's lab and my work as far as that's concerned. My intellectual property. For my work. So while Dr. Sun and Dr. Sun might wish otherwise, that's my work. I came up with that TG note. Thank you. That's my work. That's what I did. That medium mixture, that's mine. 2000 came up with it. The CTRC, that was mine. That's my work. So all those experiments, as far as that stuff, that's mine. I didn't have to give you anything that wasn't mine. If there was anything I found that he did without my work, I'd have done it. So then there's that regarding the lab. You don't have any right to my intellectual property rights or my work at all. That was mine. You know what example you got? The gardening. That's mine. And now I don't have some letters after my last name, except I earned 26 scuba diving certifications. And you know how it is being Chinese. I know I'm only half Chinese. But I got a buck going and a buck poo. And if I got 107 out of 110, you know what the score was. So let's be honest when it comes to that word. 26 scuba diving certifications, that's mine. China, you don't have that right at all. Dr. Sun, or Dr. Long, or master's degree Long. Just for clarification. Don't be playing. Because that was my work, as you were informed at that Christmas dinner. That's right. Just remember those gardening suggestions. Hi, that's me. So that TG no research, that's my work. Yeah, that's my work. You know, I was told by Eric Verona there were some issues as far as intellectual property rights. What seems to be the problem? Hmm? Hmm? You know, I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I grew up going to the ocean. Let's be honest on that, okay? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. You know, I just landed at the bottom of the ocean and surfaced alive. You know how that is. So, I'm owed my money. I'm owed my recognition. I'm owed my credit for what I worked on. Didn't ask anybody's involvement. And don't pretend that Patricia actually assisted you. She didn't know anything to answer for you, you know that. So for those who don't know, Dr. Sun and Dr. Long and master's degree Long, they are Mandarin. For those who understand this situation as far as Chinese history, Ma Bak Gong, Cantonese, Ma Bak Pu, Cantonese and Mandarin. And I had sent my now dead ex-husband in the first year when it came to the Chinese New Year, Gong Hei Fa Shui. Yeah, I didn't know they were Mandarin. That was the year of the Christmas dinner, where associate lab member on the same floor, I'm sure somebody else could verify that mail, he wanted to try to get some military detail from my now dead ex-husband, which I told him he didn't need to be speaking about that. The irony, that same male had asked me about what degree I got. Excuse me, I was just in college during high school and going to summer school to graduate early and all that stuff. And by the way, I was the one who was invited to MAST, Marine Science and Technology School with the Navy attachment. Irony, you know how Buck Poo be. Let me go a little, East Coast 1980s, 1990s. Yeah, no, I flat out told that guy he didn't need to know anything when it came to the military stuff regarding the United States of America at that dinner table, being the only female at that dinner table because the other females were up in the kitchen. I had made attempts to invite them to the table. That male had an issue. Yeah, he didn't like how that was. So then, when, as those females would know, about that particular male, he had a problem when I had said, you don't need to know anything about the military stuff regarding the United States of America. If the individuals decide to discuss that with you, you will go through the proper channels in comparison. And Dr. Sun looked down at his plate and just, So it was as it was. And so then there were a few other questions, which before, this is a Buck Poo situation for those who understand. This guy, which Eric would know, had the nerve to go and talk some stuff, and I let him know. No. You don't know anything because you don't need to. Yeah, if you needed to know, I'd let you know. Which this guy had the nerve to say, well, why would you know anything? Oh, that's right. I forgot. I graduate college. Because to you, what would I know about botany? know what? I have this background where I spent an entire year just going through every college textbook, and each year in my elementary school, I read college textbooks for fun. I don't know, what could I? What would I be capable to go over? I don't know, it's okay. I don't have those letters after my last name. It's okay though. Now I got 26 plus a few more. You know. And some experience too. Yeah, which is funny as far as those who know about the Chicago MEP station. You know, I had said I thought I had to take care of some business. I guess I did up that Christmas. I guess so. It's a little bit, but yeah, no. If there was any of my dead ex-husband's work in 2008, oh, I'd have been honorable in giving it to you. But since it was my work, no, that's my work. Yeah, that TG gnome. And you know, pink medium. Yeah, I fixed it myself. Yes, I did. Yes, that healing energy. You know what? There's this book. What the bleep do you know about my work? So, that's the irony. I've known a little bit about quantum healing for a couple of decades. Quantum mechanics, quantum physics as well. I kinda was a little bit of a dork. Any of you guys ever meet any half Asians who don't half-ass anything? Hi. Yeah. I know possibly you were in the Mandarin view of my biological sister in comparison to me, except I was the one who did all the work. Hi. Yeah, so realistically, my biological sister was the designated decoy. Hi. Hi. Yeah, so I handled some business. Time or two. Yeah, citizen of the United States of America, born and raised in New Jersey. Yeah. But for those who understand a little bit more, Dr. Sun wanted to meet me. Because, you know, why would that be a thing? Now, if my biological sister had told them about my Gong and my move, well then you got Asher Holmes Elementary School situations there in comparison to that reality. Because, you know, I'm the firstborn. Hi. Yeah, hi. Whoopsies. Yeah, my money, be my money. Yeah, that's my money. And you know, all those details as far as that work that I did. You know, I was so kind, taking care of that all these years. I mean, 1984 through 1997, and then 2003, 2004, 2005, 2009, 2011, and then, you know, 2018-ish, 2019, 2020, and then a little bit in 2021 and 2022. I'm just making sure the United States of America be safe. You know, just taking care of stuff as best as I can. Yeah. So that way, you know, well, we're cool. We're cool, I'm just saying. You know, so that just is as it is, but anyway. You know,
1998 out on the East Coast, and then 1998 to 1999-ish. There's a few situations there in Indiana. But you know, it is what it is. It's okay. It's all good. I do what I can, you know. I can only do so much on my own, I'm just saying. Nonetheless, you know, just is as it is. And, you know, but if you think I'm joking, even though there's truth behind every joke, that's all you need. Mm-hmm. It's okay. So, 2008, that sort of situation occurs, and after the JCPenney situation regarding those dress blues, yeah, so if Mike, Anna, and Patricia touted those around similarly to my ex-in-laws, well, Grandpa Nichols warned my ex-in-laws about that. And there are guys, especially in the state of Texas, though there's probably a few in Georgia, who could take a look at that dress blue picture stuff and be quite clear as to a few situations. So, yeah. And so, then, well, I took care of what I took care of, where I could, for as many as I could. After a few situations, it was time that I needed to, you know, kind of whatever. And I kept 9 Lives books in the loop at the time. They thought I was joking the whole time, and it was not a joke at all. So they were informed of all the stuff that was going on. They thought that he was joking, no different than my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister. Fast forward to Carrollton, though. So there's the housewarming party and my neighbors, as far as that's concerned. So they saw that dress blue picture, Mike, Anna, and Patricia. So however that stuff went, after, you know, the I-35 southbound collision, as far as that's concerned, which I've already clarified as to where the location my vehicle was at in comparison to where the actual collision was at. Then there's those needless problems, which, you know, I told people about. I even told Nathan in regards of certain things as far as that was concerned. And then, yeah, so I did the best I could. Made every attempt I could. And so then there's where I could do the best I could as I could. And so then there's McCoy Elementary School and those situations. And, you know, doing what I could as a mom and all that. My son and my daughter's biological father and grandfather had only died within, you know, 7 months of one another. And so, you know, what's compassion? As far as the area, but it is what it is. Then I was earning my 26 scuba diving certifications. But here you go. Through that time, nobody from Mike, Anna, or Patricia ever asked about their birthdays. They also didn't ever say anything. So if they had a party, that was their fault for not inviting me. That's their fault. I was kind of busy each and every year, almost every point of the year. So wow, wouldn't it have been awesome if people actually cared about me enough to actually have done a birthday party for me to actually attend and actually inform me of it first instead of it being a surprise party, so that way I could actually pick out my own clothes instead? Wouldn't have that been, you know, grand? That would have been grand. Yeah. So instead, though, I'm sure there are others who have known that, you know, Mike, Anna, and Patricia complaining and whining, and then whatever, as far as, you know, then there's that abomination of a wedding that they had where my son and my daughter were the ring bearer and flower girl. But remember, any agreement made with my now dead ex-husband wasn't for my dead ex-husband to make at all. That was me that needed to be gone through. So, negotiations. So, Mike, Anna, and Patricia didn't ever have any authority to do that. Ever. Not at all. No. However, that Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment, hypothetically, there's some patterns on behavior that could be taken in consideration. Such as like 1992 as well. Or, 1990. Second grade. And then there's Old Tennant Presbyterian Church and, hallowed ground beneath Old Tennant Presbyterian Church. Because I was told about this issue in 2001 regarding the congregation. Yeah, magic. Is there a situation regarding those who wanted to bring Hollywood to the East Coast because they weren't happy with the way New York City ran things? I know there were a bunch that were upset about Juilliard and Broadway and stuff like that. For example, though they finally got their plaque in 2001, I guess that's why Mike, Anna, and Patricia went up there. And I suppose that's also why I wasn't invited, because, I took a stand against that because I had this nightmare in second grade. I wonder what day of the year in 2001 that was. As far as that little celebration, getting that little plaque. Huh? Congregation? When did that letter come in? And, because it usually takes a while before that plaque can be made. So, probably, whenever that came in the mail. Yeah. Yeah, I gave these congregants warnings about that. So, if they got a confirmation letter in, any time before September 11th of 2001 that they were approved for the historical stuff, regarding that basement issue as well that I warned about. Nobody wanted to listen to me, but they wanted to verify that because that's those types. Not thinking about, but hey, they wanted to bring Hollywood to the East Coast. So hey, you know what? The first movie I saw after I woke up from a coma, after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I'm going to guesstimate maybe it's not just the Exorcist movie to take in consideration of that type of documentary. Old Tennant Presbyterian Church. Congregants up. From that year in 2001. Yeah, congratulations. My little plaque. You got that. It just took all of that. Because, remember Old Tennant Presbyterian Church congregation, when you first did the meetings for that, you got that other plaque, in the basement. Because you didn't want to listen to good reason. So, what would be an irony to time frame? And how would Old Tennant Presbyterian Church congregation from that point in time who decided not to listen to me, what would they have for themselves to take into consideration? I dealt with the youth group who didn't like that I took a stand. Yeah, the youth group and the Sunday school classes complained because how dare I be against that. They thought it was a bad thing because I cared about the aspects of General George Washington and the sanctity of. I guess they could look at those historical aspects, because they wanted to be a part of the historical society. As far as that's concerned. So, yeah, but still my work, my stuff, and all that. Not anybody else's. But those youth groupers, they were as they were. There were a few problems that Mike and Anna didn't want to believe me about as far as some of the females and males in the youth group at the time, especially after Baptist
this Camp Lebanon as well. So then there's that. You know, whoever recommended that, Mike and Anna can take that in consideration. So then there's that, but you know, and there's that. Additionally, you know, so then there's that 9 Lives books thing, and you know, I told them about those 3 firearms, and I told them about the other stuff that was going on during that time frame, but there was all those crazy, cat sanctuary people who I had to relay the messages to and through a few times, as well as the Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., because I was dealing with so much. Yeah. And so went to go just take care of stuff as best as I could. So then, you know, as time went the way it did in those situations regarding finding a silver lining, so if my biological sister had decided with her abomination of a husband from that abomination of a marriage, because, you know, Miller's, just think, Starbucks at exit 200, your education system taught your son that San Marcos halfway point to Carrollton for the halfway point, exit 200, that's Starbucks on the other side of the Prime Outlets. That's your education system. And again, didn't have the authority to make any whatevers as far as that was concerned regarding my son and my daughter. However, I'll let you know that when Mike and Anna sent Patricia to my house to look through lingerie because they knew, because how creep-tastic is that, my biological sister saw the little box in reference to my dead ex-husband by the door, and she was so sad. She fell to her knees. You know what? Probably not the first time. And, you know, she wept because, you know, she's so sad about, you know, my dead ex-husband. Knew the dress blue situation, told her about the Chief Warrant Officer 3 situation. Didn't matter to her. Because the dress blues. So she cried and cried. She just couldn't handle seeing that. Yeah. So then there's the other situations and needless problems from those types. Hypothetically. What's mine is mine. Is mine is mine. Non-transferable, because what's mine is mine. You didn't ever have any permission of mine. And any of those types involving themselves, so let's say the abomination of a wedding of my biological sister to Zach Miller and that sort of stuff, if they had made a agreement with Mike and Anna about my son and my daughter, they didn't have any legal authority to, even if they tried to use my dead ex-husband. First and foremost, I'm the one and only executrix. More importantly, though, I'm the only sponsor. Yay! So legally, they haven't had any authority to even offer anything. And then if any issues in regards to McCoy Elementary School and or my scuba diving and that involvement, then there's those problems that need to be taken care of because of whatever issues. Because especially when you think about it, the merger is going to be occurring in 34 days as far as the T-Mobile Sprint. And once that's solidified, because it's already solidified, it's just the final coding phases, which there are algorithms for that additionally, just in case. You know, they didn't want to repeat regarding Y2K. wouldn't allow it. So in those algorithm ways and stuff like that, it'll be warp speed. Although it might already be at that now, wouldn't it be considered as? So if there were people who thought that they had the right, in regards of my Medal of Honor art project trips, you actually had to speak with me. And only me. You didn't have anybody else to speak with. Sponsor! Yeah, and if other people involve themselves illegally by lying, the clarifications and verifications. So let's say Matt West was like, actually, she's much more intelligent. Why are there any needless problems regarding my work? There shouldn't be that. You know, but there can't be any biases that are unnamed. And my work, especially when it comes to scuba diving, is my work. So what is the combination to take in consideration between ocean currents to sound vibrations from other people in that hypothetical, whether you look at Irving 2011 as well, and, or what was that snow that happened in 2010 around March or April? So, you know, hypothetically, some people might want to take some stuff in consideration because reality. And so if anybody would think that you could ever do as I did, taking care of the oceanic waters, most specifically at the Vandenberg scuba dive, you would have to be accustomed to frigid water. You couldn't really have the majority of your scuba diving or swimming, more so swimming in warm water, especially at that depth level. It's known. It's cold. All you need to do is check a submarine temperature. And it's colder than that, where I went. So, clarifications, honesty and integrity matter. It's very important. So while some people might consider that what have you regarding U-Haul, that didn't have the authority to do that, that is a D and a T wording in reference to the modern day book for certain situations additionally. Yeah. So those in what is supposed to be the consenting adult lifestyle. Now you have that to consider, because if you recognized in reference to the 9 Lives books, you didn't have the authority to go through Michael. He wasn't ever, same thing with Suzanne, wasn't ever given that authority. Ever. No one was. That's why I contacted. That's how that goes. So, I haven't ever been paid for my work. I'm owed money. A lot. I'm gonna guesstimate. I didn't invite anybody to get involved with my work. At all. Regarding my Medal of Honor or project trips, my website, my books, or anything like that. My finances, did that on purpose. Because, you know, when has anybody ever celebrated me? So I just worked for, you know, myself. Because that's my work. I already had declared in 2004 was creating my own books as far as religious books. So it would be sacrilegious for anybody else to utilize my work without my permission. It would be fully sacrilegious. You have Old Tenet Presbyterian Church to take in consideration. And if you've clarified and verified those details, and if it's just a coinky-dink of timing, that's your viewpoint. So whatever proof, because I know there are so many skeptics, I'm going to guesstimate there might not be too many skeptics right now when it comes to that.
nobody's made me an offer as far as any of that's concerned. Nobody's asked me either, as far as my personal preferences, as far as that is, because sure, I knew that I could make them into movies, however, they have to be done my way, and only my way, because otherwise it's considered sacrilegious. You know, being an ordained reverend and all. Yeah, can't even be done in a play format, because it's considered sacrilegious. Similarly to a few other things, in my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, on my website, www.susannewling.com, my constitutional rights, my freedoms. And so, the only way you get consent is through informed consent. And so, in truth, I've done the best I could. Intellectual property rights, remember that. And so anybody in the state of Texas that might have wished, well, you have Finding a Silver Lining. What part of that did you miss out on? It's like the first few chapters. I was born and raised in New Jersey. The 1980s, 1990s. So if a bunch of people just wanted to wishfully listen to Mike, Anna, and Patricia afterwards, I'm sure in regards of Patricia, it's Susan, Susan, Susan. She did that because I grew up with that. And that's why she's a Democrat. She's one of those that wants to redistribute whatever, and she doesn't have any authority to. She didn't earn it. People who don't earn something are willing to do that way in comparison. This is why when I earned each one of the first, second, third place in regards of the circuit through to the international competition, that's why I wouldn't allow my 2 trophies per Taekwondo competition in the house. That's why I left him with Sensei Bob. Because, at minimum someone would actually respect my work in comparison. Because of all the needless drama I was already dealing with. I only got to keep the second and third, except for then there was the problems regarding, how I wound up in Washington State. But see, that's the problem with those types, because you think that you're doing a favor when you do that and you don't. If I don't specifically take it directly to you, and you just, thou shalt not steal, 10 commandments, thou shalt not covet what's not yours. Those situations, and so, while those people regarding my intellectual property rights, my copyrights, my safety, my finances to go and take care of what I needed, why would you think you'd ever know what I need? You haven't ever known what I actually needed to begin with. Don't want you involved either. Not okay with the way that whole, abomination of a wedding situation, those, my outfits, as far as that's gross. So that's canceled as far as that stuff. All that energy's, no. No. Modern day book, remember that. www.susannewling.com, because, there's only one. And so,
go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel and like my official YouTube videos and share the links to my official YouTube videos and links. And if you're going to leave a comment, please do make sure to have etiquette and respect. And depending on, I might answer. So, have a good day. It's the 3rd of May, 2022.